The persistent drizzle that had misted over Riverview Hollow for most of the late afternoon was finally beginning to relent, though the air remained heavy with the scent of damp earth and pine. The town, nestled in the Pacific Northwest of Canada, was a place of stark contrasts, where old sprawling properties with histories etched into their weathered wood stood shoulder to shoulder with newer, more uniform suburban developments. For Reynold Mercer, the town held both his most cherished memories and an ever-present gnawing ache. 4 years ago, his life had been irrevocably fractured when his 10-year-old son, Aiden, vanished from a soccer game, swallowed by an afternoon much like this one, leaving behind a void that time had stubbornly failed to fill. Now, as the main youth soccer coach, every game, every cheer, every triumphant shout from a young player was a bittersweet echo of what he had lost. On this particular late Friday afternoon, however, a genuine, unforced smile touched Reynolds' lips. He stood on the slightly muddy field of the Riverview Youth Athletics Complex, the cheers of his current team, a different group of boys from 4 years prior, still ringing in the cool air. They had just clinched a small local tournament, and the energy was palpable. His colleague Derek Maddox, the team's second coach, stood beside him, a more reserved figure but sharing in the quiet satisfaction of the win. "All right, lads, gather around," Reynold called out, his voice warm and carrying easily over the dispersing crowd of parents. The boys, flushed with victory and adrenaline, quickly formed a semicircle, their red and white team jackets splattered with mud. "That was an incredible performance," Reynold beamed. "Every single one of you played your hearts out. I'm so proud." A chorus of "Thanks, coach," erupted. "To celebrate," Reynold continued, his eyes twinkling. "How about a BBQ at my place tonight? Burgers, hot dogs, the works." The suggestion was met with a roar of approval. Coach Derek, however, cleared his throat, a slight frown creasing his brow. He was a man of routine and order. "Reynold, perhaps that's not the best idea," he interjected, his tone measured. "This is rather sudden. I'm not sure all the parents will be on board." He glanced at the gathering clouds. "And the weather doesn't look too promising." Reynold, ever the optimist, waved a dismissive hand. Don't worry. If a BBQ is too much, we can just do a massive takeaway. Pizza, Chinese, whatever you lads fancy." Derek remained unconvinced. "I appreciate the thought, Reynold, but I already have plans. Perhaps we could postpone until tomorrow. It's Saturday, a more appropriate time." Reynold saw the logic. "You know what, Derek? You're probably right," he conceded. "A Saturday BBQ it is." He saw their slightly deflated expressions. "But hey," he added, trying to salvage the mood, "how about we at least go grab a celebratory milkshake at Rosie's Diner? My treat." This was met with renewed enthusiasm. As the team began to gather their gear, Reynolds' phone buzzed. He pulled it out, his expression changing instantly when he saw the caller ID. His wife, Sarah. "Excuse me for a moment, everyone," he said, stepping away. "Sarah, hi, what's up?" Her voice was a mixture of anxiety and fragile hope. "Reynold, the police just called. They have an update on Aiden's case." Reynolds' heart lurched. An update? After 4 long years. "What kind of update?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Someone claims to have seen him," Sarah continued, her voice thick with emotion. "Yesterday, in a different town, Cedar Ridge. It's about a 3-hour drive. They have some footage they want us to look at." Cedar Ridge. The name meant nothing to him, yet it now held a sliver of terrifying, desperate possibility. "Okay, Sarah, I'll meet you there. I'm leaving right now." He walked back to the team, his face pale. "Guys," Reynold began, his voice strained, "I have to leave. The police. They've received a new clue about Aiden." A hush fell over the group. The boys understood the gravity. "Coach Derek," Reynolds said, Would you mind still taking the boys for that milkshake? I'll catch up about the BBQ plans tomorrow. Derek nodded, though his expression was hard to read. Yeah, of course, Reynold, you go, don't worry about us. Thanks, Derek. Oh, one more thing. Have you paid the referee yet? In their small league, coaches handled the modest fee directly. No, not yet, Derek replied. All right, I'll take care of it, Reynolds said. I'll just grab the cash from the team locker and pay him on my way out. Just as Reynolds was about to head towards the locker rooms, Derek stopped him. Actually, Reynolds, let me do it. You should just get to the station. No, it's fine, really, Reynolds insisted. I need to grab my change of clothes from my locker anyway. It'll only take a second. Derek hesitated, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Then he seemed to make a decision. Okay, fine, he said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small key. Here's the key to the team locker. I just thought I had some personal items in there, but I remember now I moved them. He handed it over. Reynolds took the key, a brief, almost imperceptible frown touching his lips at Derek's slightly odd explanation. But his mind was already miles away, racing towards the police station. The corridor leading to the locker rooms was cool and dimly lit. He reached the designated locker, its metal door painted an institutional beige. The key Derek had given him slid easily into the lock. The door swung open, revealing the usual jumble of team equipment and the distinct scent of sweat and liniment. Reynolds' eyes scanned the interior, searching for the team's cash envelope. He spotted it peeking out from underneath Derek's neatly folded team jacket and a worn backpack. Carefully, he lifted the jacket. As he did, a small, crumpled piece of paper dislodged itself from the inner folds and fluttered silently to the floor. He bent to pick it up, intending to simply tuck it back. It was just a receipt, none of his business. He was about to crumple it further when a few printed words stark against the white snagged his attention. His gaze, initially indifferent, sharpened with an almost painful intensity. The receipt was from a general store, but what made Reynolds' breath catch in his throat was the list of items purchased. Strawberry Pinwheel Hard Candies X12. Graph Puzzle Book, Level 5. Difficulty X1 Thermal Blankets, Child Size X1. A cold dread, sharp and sudden, pierced through Reynolds. Strawberry Pinwheel Candies. Aiden had adored them, his absolute favorite. The Graph Puzzle Book, Level 5. The specificity hit Reynolds like a physical blow. Aiden had been obsessed with those particular puzzle books, devouring them. Anything less, he declared, was too easy, Dad. And the child-sized thermal blankets. Why would Derek, a single man with no children of his own, be buying these specific items? And 12 packets of candy. His mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation. A godchild he'd never mentioned? A charity drive? But the combination of items so uniquely Aiden was too coincidental, too jarring. A wave of nausea washed over him. He couldn't put it back. With trembling fingers, he carefully folded the receipt and slipped it into his own pocket. The crinkle of the paper was a loud, accusatory sound in the sudden silence. The drive to the Riverview police station was a blur. When he arrived, Sarah was already there, her face pale. Officer Miller, a detective on Aiden's case from the beginning, led them to an interview room. We received a call this morning from a woman in Cedar Ridge, Miller began. She works at a florist shop. She believes she saw a boy matching Aiden's description yesterday. Miller turned to a laptop. The general store next to her shop has a security camera. It's not the best quality, but we have a short clip. A grainy video began to play. It showed a rain-swept street. Two figures, one taller, one smaller, hurried past. For a split second, as they turned to enter a doorway, the boy's face was partially visible. A pale oval, a hint of light hair. Was it Aiden? The build seemed right for a 14-year-old, but the quality was poor, the glimpse too fleeting. I don't know, Reynolds said, a wave of frustration washing over him. I can't say for sure. He reached into his pocket, his fingers closing around the crumpled receipt. Officer Miller, Reynolds said. What was the name of the store in the footage? It's called the Cedar Creek Emporium, Miller said. Reynolds unfolded the receipt. The store name printed there was different, Pine Valley Goods and Groceries, and the date was from a week ago, not yesterday. A small, almost imperceptible deflation occurred within him. It was a different store, a different day. What's that, Reynolds? Miller asked. I found this earlier, Reynolds said hesitantly, smoothing the receipt on the table. Sarah gasped softly as she read the list, her eyes flicking up to Reynolds, full of a dawning, horrified understanding. Miller examined it. Pine Valley Goods and Groceries. That's also in Cedar Ridge, but it's a different establishment. Unlikely to be related. He handed the receipt back. The potential lead felt like it was dissolving into nothing. Reynolds left the station, the rain now falling heavily. He decided to check on the team at Rosie's Diner. He tried calling Derek's cell, but it went straight to voicemail. As he approached Rosie's, he saw Derek's dark blue sedan in the parking lot. Relief washed over him, quickly followed by renewed unease. He scanned the diner's brightly lit interior. No sign of the team. Then he saw Derek hurrying from the diner's entrance towards his car, carrying a large takeaway bag and a tray with multiple large milkshake cups. But there were no children with him. Reynolds watched as Derek's car pulled out of the parking lot. It was then that he noticed it, the front passenger side tire. It looked low, distinctly deflated. Concern overrode his suspicion. He had to warn him. He made a quick U-turn and accelerated, catching up to Derek's sedan. He flashed his headlights and Derek pulled over. The rain was relentless as both men got out. "Derek!" Reynolds shouted over the storm. "Your front tire, it's really deflated." Derek looked surprised to see him. "Oh yeah, I thought it felt a bit off. Thanks for letting me know." He gestured vaguely at the diner. The boys went straight home. The weather turned too nasty. "Do you have a spare?" Reynolds pressed. "I can help you change it." Derek hesitated, then opened the trunk. The trunk was cluttered, and the spare tire was in terrible condition, cracked and worn. But before he could close it, Reynolds' gaze snagged on something else, a flash of familiar color. An old faded hoodie, kid-sized, a navy blue one with a faded skateboarding logo. It looked exactly like one Aiden used to wear constantly. His heart gave a painful throb. Derek, seemingly oblivious, sighed in frustration at the useless spare. "Let me give you a lift home," Reynolds offered. "We can call for roadside assistance from there." Derek refused. "No, it's really fine. I can make it home if I drive slowly." "Then at least let me follow you," Reynolds insisted. "I'll feel better knowing you made it okay." Derek finally agreed. Reynolds followed him, his eyes fixed on Derek's car as it navigated the treacherous streets, his mind a whirl of growing unease. The image of that hoodie was now seared into his memory alongside the contents of the crumpled receipt. The journey took them to the sparsely populated outskirts of town. Derek turned onto a long, unpaved driveway and Reynolds followed, his car bumping over the uneven surface. It opened into a clearing, revealing a large, dilapidated two-story house. As they got out, Reynolds' gaze was drawn to a large, dilapidated barn, and next to it, an incongruous metal storage unit, the kind that resembled a shipping container. "Big property," Reynolds remarked. "Family home," Derek said. "The barn belonged to my grandfather. Had to buy that shipping container years ago for extra storage. The barn's probably not safe to go into anymore." At the doorstep, Reynolds knew he couldn't leave without asking. "Derek," he began, his voice carefully neutral. He pulled out the receipt. A receipt fell out of your jacket earlier. I couldn't help but notice the items. They were all Aiden's favorites. I had to ask. Derek's reaction was immediate but subtle. A brief flicker of nervousness crossed his face before his expression settled back into its stoic mask. "Oh, that," he said, his voice a little too casual. "Right. That was for a friend's child. I was visiting them in Cedar Ridge last week, just doing a favor." The explanation was plausible. A wave of shame washed over Reynold. He was being paranoid. "Okay," he said, feeling foolish. "I'm sorry, Derek, I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions." But then the image of the hoodie flashed in his mind. "One more thing. When you opened your trunk, I saw an old kid's hoodie." This time Derek visibly tensed. "A hoodie?" "Oh, that. Belonged to one of a boy from an old team. He must have left it in my car ages ago. Keep forgetting about it." The explanation felt flimsy, less convincing. Derek seemed eager to end the conversation. Reynold backed away from the porch. "Yeah, you're right. I should go." He walked back to his car, his mind in turmoil, a confusing mix of relief and lingering doubt. He put his car into reverse, his headlights cutting a swathe through the rain-swept darkness. He reached the end of the long driveway and paused before pulling onto the main road, realizing he wasn't sure of the quickest way back. He shifted the car into park, partially concealed by a thicket of bushes. He pulled out his phone to use its GPS. As he did, his gaze drifted across the dark expanse of Derek's property. His eyes were drawn to the metal storage unit. And then he saw it, a tiny pinprick of red light blinking from the side of the container near the door. It blinked again and again. There was a pattern: long, short, long pause, short, 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 pause. Reynolds' blood ran cold. He knew Morse code, a skill from years ago. It came back to him now, fragmented but insistent. H-U-N-G-R-Y. I'm hungry. The message repeated, a desperate plea blinking into the stormy night. A cold dread, far more potent than anything he had felt before, seized him. His breath hitched. Then the front door of Derek's house opened. Derek emerged, carrying a takeaway box and one of the tall milkshake cups. Concealed by the darkness, Reynold watched, frozen, as Derek walked purposefully across the muddy lawn, directly towards the metal storage unit. He fumbled with the lock, pulled up a rolling steel shutter door, and disappeared inside. Reynolds' world tilted. The receipt, the hoodie, the food, the isolated property, the reinforced container. It all clicked together with a horrifying, undeniable clarity. His fingers fumbling, he dialed Officer Miller's direct line. "Miller." "It's Reynold Mercer," he said, his voice tight with urgency. "I'm at Derek Maddox's house. I think he has someone in a storage container on his property. I saw a Morse code signal. I'm hungry, and I just saw him take food into it." "Reynold, are you sure?" Miller's voice was sharp. "I'm sure," Reynold said. "Someone is in there." "Okay, Reynold, stay where you are. Do not engage. We're dispatching a unit immediately." The wait felt like an eternity. Finally, 2 police cruisers, sirens off, turned onto the driveway. Reynold pointed towards the storage unit. "He's still in there." The 3 officers moved cautiously across the lawn. Reynold followed a few paces behind, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Miller knocked loudly on the steel. "Police! Mr. Maddox, open up!" After a few tense moments, the steel door began to rise slowly. Derek stood there, blinking in the glare of their flashlights. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded. "Mr. Maddox," Officer Miller said, his voice firm, "we've received a report of someone being kept in this unit. We need to check inside." Derek scoffed. "That's ridiculous. There's no one in here but me." 2 officers moved past him, their flashlights sweeping the cluttered space. They found no one. Reynolds' heart sank. Had he imagined it? I think he's lying, Reynolds said, his gaze fixed on a section of old carpet near a stack of boxes. What's under that carpet? An officer pulled back the edge of the carpet. Underneath, set flush with the floor, was a wooden trapdoor with a recessed metal ring handle. Derek's composure finally cracked. His face went pale. That's just an old root cellar access. It's been sealed for years. But the fresh scuff marks around it told a different story. An officer pulled open the trapdoor, revealing a dark, narrow opening. A dank, musty smell wafted up. Two officers carefully lowered themselves into the crawlspace. The silence stretched. Then, a voice from the tunnel. We've got him. We found a boy down here. A wave of dizziness washed over Reynolds. A few minutes later, one of the officers emerged, followed by his partner, who was carefully helping a small, frail figure. It was a boy, his face pale and grimy, his eyes wide and blinking in the sudden light. He was thin, almost emaciated. It was Aiden. Reynolds gasped, a strangled sob escaping his lips. His son. His Aiden. Alive. But as Aiden's eyes focused on Reynolds, his expression was one of utter shock, then a strange, heartbreaking fear. "Dad," he whispered, his voice raspy from disuse. He began to cry, not tears of relief, but of confusion and terror. Am I seeing a ghost? You're supposed to be dead." Reynolds' heart shattered. "What? Aiden, no, what are you talking about?" "Coach Derek," Aiden choked out between sobs. "He told me. He said you and Mom and all my friends from the soccer team. You were all killed in a wild shooting incident after the competition years ago. He said he saved me. He said he was keeping me safe in the bunker because bad people were still hunting me." The monstrous truth was finally revealed. For 4 years, Derek, consumed by a festering professional jealousy of Reynolds, had held Aiden captive. He had lured him away on the day of the tournament, sedated him, and locked him in the makeshift bunker he had prepared. He systematically brainwashed the boy, feeding him a steady diet of lies, convincing him he was a fugitive and that Derek was his only protector. The candies and puzzle books were tools of manipulation, rewards for obedience and submission to the horrific abuse that doctors would later confirm. At the hospital, surrounded by relieved but heartbroken family and friends, the full scope of Derek's evil began to emerge as other young boys from the team, past and present, found the courage to come forward with their own stories of his inappropriate behavior. Later, after the initial medical treatments, when Aiden was settled in a private room, Reynolds and Sarah sat with him. He was exhausted, traumatized, but the terror in his eyes had begun to recede. In a small, weak voice, Aiden looked at Reynolds. "Dad," he whispered, a tiny, fragile smile touching his lips. "I haven't played soccer in such a long time." He paused, his voice barely audible. "When I get better, can I play again?" Tears welled in Reynolds' eyes. He reached out and gently took his son's hand, marveling at the flicker of hope that still burned within this child who had endured the unthinkable. "Yes, Aiden," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Yes, you can. Whenever you're ready, we'll play again." The road to healing would be long and arduous. But in that small hospital room, a new journey had begun. A journey back towards light, towards healing, and towards the simple joy of a boy and his love for the game. The nightmare was over. The slow, painful dawn was breaking.